Tracking breaking news out of the NFL after just one season, Lovie Smith is out as head coach of the Texans following a season that saw Houston finish 3-13-1. Houston also lost out on the #1 overall pick on Sunday after a win over the Colts and a Bears loss to the Vikings. Smith is the fourth head coach to lose his job this season. He leaves with 3 years remaining on his deal.
Lovie Smith's firing was the second time in as many years the Texans have fired their head coach. Smith is a well-respected coach around the league. The year before, the Texans fired another black coach, and that was David Culley, after just 1 year on the job. Culley had worked as an assistant coach in the NFL since 1995, and the players he had coached were very happy when he landed the job in 2020. Lovie Smith was given one shot. David Culley was given one shot. This is a common thread for the Texans. Stephen A. Smith of ESPN had enough, and rightfully so. Take a look.
The Houston Texans organization are an atrocity. They are an embarrassment. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're an African American and you aspire to be a head coach in the National Football League, there's 31 teams you should hope for. You should hope beyond God that the Houston Texans never call you.
Well, there it is. Stephen A. made it crystal clear, and that's how a lot of black folks feel. And by the way, former Texans owner Bob McNair, who passed away in 2018, once said this in 2017. Speaking at a meeting between owners, team executives, and Commissioner Roger Goodell, Houston Texan owner Bob McNair reportedly said, quote, "We can't have the inmates running the prison," end quote, in response to NFL players taking a knee during the United States national anthem. Mayor, let's just dive into this right now.
Listen, I will say I'm usually a hyper person myself, and Stephen A. Smith is the reason I can't watch ESPN, because his energy, my energy, will have me doing cartwheels, and plus I drink a lot of coffee. But I'll say the brother missed a point today, and that point he missed was he said the Houston Texans were atrocious. The entire NFL is. This is not to let Houston off the record, but it's to say that this is par for the course. We're talking about a league that has no black owners, and 70+% of the players, which makes the money, generates the money, are black people. It's also ironic that the Houston continued to fire black coaches after one season. And then when you couple with what the NFL was doing in 2018, 2019, when they were race norming, basically saying that black people need less of, black players need less of that $1 billion concussion settlement, because concussions were not the reason their IQ was lower. It's because their starting point was lower. We had less intelligence because of our skin. So when you put it in that context, you already know what time it is, not just in Houston, but everywhere there's an NFL franchise, because it is par for the course. This is a league that told the players, while Donald Trump was calling their mothers SOBs, we watched this league not defend these players. We watched this league. Jerry Jones in Texas, so many other owners say, if you take a knee, you will no longer play football. And not understanding that if we no longer play football, all of us, then you don't have a league. So I understand what they're saying about Lovie Smith and all of these whatever the atrocities that happen in Houston, but it happens all over the NFL at all 32 teams. And I'm telling you, it is absolutely disgusting. Let's think about it this way. When the NFL started talking about they were gonna work harder for hiring more black coaches, that's like saying we're gonna send Wile E. Coyote to go pick up the road runner in an Uber. That's like saying we're gonna send a wolf to the hen house. Ain't nothing good gonna come out of that at all. And this is just a result of the institutionalizing of racism in the NFL, which we should be used to.
Yeah, true that, Mayor. And the black community but the greater community at large, the burden should not always just fall on black people to make some crooked path straight, but we know when it comes to systemic racism, white supremacy, and anti-blackness, because be clear, That's what we're talking about, anti-blackness. The burden often falls totally, or at least 90% on Black people to sound the alarm. And the quote from Bob McNair, I mean, this man up until a point, this was the man up until about 4 years ago who was making the hiring decisions. So wrap your mind around that. And the Texans are not alone, as the mayor laid out. Lovie Smith's firing once again just highlights the NFL's total bias. We have a whole system within the NFL that shows its bias and is not afraid to, because there are no consequences for the bias to make the NFL change its behavior. They don't have to. Strong bias against Black coaches. And the Washington Post spoke with a number of these Black coaches about it last year. Take a look at this.
I do think the words genius, guru, quarterback whisperer are all phrases that they use to describe non-African American coaches.
It's as if we don't have the same IQ, intelligence level as some of our other brothers.
You can go out and catch the ball, you can throw the ball, but can you lead?
I think that if owners would give Black coaches more opportunities, not say that you have to keep a guy for 8 years or 10 years, but you would if he won.
You're a minority coach, you gotta win.
If you are a minority coach, you have to win. There is no room for error. And we see this kind of behavior towards African Americans. It spills into every aspect of life, social, political. It's not just in the sports arena, it is throughout the lives of a lot of Black people experience this. But when you are a Black coach in the NFL, it is absolutely an environment where so few African Americans get a chance to navigate. And the data does prove what these Black coaches are saying. Let's take a look at that data. Overall, Black coaches have won about 7.75 games per year, while white coaches win about 7.71 games every season. Yet the average tenure of a Black head coach is 4.5 years, more than a full season shorter than the tenure for a white head coach at 5.68 years. So we're seeing the win rate, Mayor, among Black coaches higher than that of their white peers, but yet they get less time on the job. So, I quote Andrew Yang a lot, the math here is not mathing.